You are listening to episode 3 of the Mom on Purpose podcast. Today we're talking about postpartum stress and mothering through stressful seasons. Welcome to Mom on Purpose podcast. If this is your first time listening, thanks for coming. The Mom on Purpose podcast is produced every week. Come back often and please subscribe in iTunes. All links and materials referenced are in the show notes, which you'll find at momonpurpose.com. Every Mom on Purpose episode will include a quick mom verse, a verse custom designed to encourage you in your mothering. Today's verse is Isaiah 40, verse 11. It says, "He will tend his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom and gently lead those that are with young." What I love about this verse is actually the verse before it says the Lord God comes with might. And so it sounds like he is this strong ruler, and he is. And yet in this next verse, what we find is at the very same time that he is ruling and overseeing the universe, he is gently leading those of his sheep who are with young. And that is us. Those of us who are mothers, we are those who are weak, and we are carrying a real burden, and our shepherd sees it, and he loves us, and he deals gently with us. So be encouraged. He's not looking at you with an angry eye, but with a gentle eye of love and affection. Mom on Purpose listeners, I am so excited to bring this conversation to you today. We're going to be talking with Mandi Ehman. She blogs at lifeyourway.net, and she also has 6 kids that she homeschools, and she works from home. We're going to be talking about postpartum stress and staying connected with your family during seasons of stress in motherhood. Hey, Mandy, I am so excited to be talking with you today. I know both of us have gone through quite a bit of postpartum seasons. I guess first, I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So this is always like the $1 million question, because you're like, how do I sum up who I am without rambling? But I am the mom of 6 little ones. I kind of never thought I would be saying that, but we just had our little guy who's on my lap cooing, looking at the picture of your family. Actually. So we have 4 girls and then a 4-year gap and then 2 baby boys on the end that we added on, and we're loving life with them. They range from 11 to almost 5 months. I am a working mom, and I'm also a homeschooling mom, which presents all kinds of fun challenges. Yeah. But we've been homeschooling from the beginning and plan to homeschool to the end. So that's kind of drives all our other family decisions.
Yeah, we got to know each other some on the old Sunlight forums, and I remember you sticking out to me because you were one of the only people roughly my age with roughly my same amount of kids. And that's continued over the course of the years. You took a little break, and then now you've been working at it again, catching back up.
Yeah, I think you're pulling ahead of us. We're feeling pretty settled and done at this point, but it is fun to see. I felt the same kind of connection with you for the same reason, because there were a lot of older moms who I love and I've learned so much from, yes. But it was a little more rare to see those of us who were on the younger end and who were having, lots of kids close together and that kind of thing. So I'm thankful for Facebook, even as that forum has kind of changed and a lot of us have moved off of it, because it's been fun to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Tell us about your little guy. How old is he?
He is almost 5 months. He is the biggest baby we've had by far. I've always had tiny babies, and he's like off the chart in the opposite direction. And he eats nonstop because you've got to get enough calories to support all this weight. And so he's a happy guy, but he wants interaction all the time, which is, challenging in some ways. Thankfully, we have a lot of faces for him, but he's been a surprise in every way, not just his birth, which did kind of catch up, or not his birth, but his pregnancy, which caught us by surprise, but also just, his personality. And he deals with a couple mild, not concerning, but take time medical issues and just different things like that. So I think he's kind of a slow down baby. Like, hey, you have no choice but to pay attention to me and be in the moment.
That's good. That's actually a gift, isn't it?
It is. It is hard. For sure.
But it's hard. Well, okay, so you've got a newborn. And I know a lot of moms listening right now could be sitting there thinking, okay, this lady has 6 kids and Jess has 7 and an 8th on the way. But I'm sitting here with my 1 newborn and I feel completely overwhelmed. I am exhausted. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And maybe battling some postpartum depression or going through challenges. What would you say to that woman?
First, I would just validate it because I remember my first baby and it's totally overwhelming. And I remember my second baby who was colicky. And at that point, I had 2 under 18 months. And again, totally overwhelming. And I remember my third, which was the first time I dealt with postpartum depression. And it was really hard. And so I think each of those transitions was super hard. This is the first transition, number 6, where I felt like he just kind of fit seamlessly into our family without, feeling like we had to make all these adjustments or it was so overwhelming. There's still definitely overwhelming moments, but this is the first time where I would say adding a baby has been quote unquote easy or easier for me. So I just wouldn't want anyone listening to be like, I can't even handle this 1 baby or these 2 babies. How do these women do it with 6? Because, it's that thing. We add them, most of us, 1 at a time.
Yeah. And
we learn along the way. And you have older kids who help you. And it's a whole different ball game. So those first few babies are definitely challenging.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think sometimes that there are some lies or misconceptions that American moms believe about the sort of mom they need to be or how the postpartum season is going to go. What are some of those that you see? Do you see those?
I do see those. And I think our biggest one is maybe this idea that we need to get it all together. We need to figure it out. And here's the thing. And I think this is probably true for you. I'm a go-getter. I like things to be organized. I like, postpartum, I like to get back on track as soon as possible. I like to leave the house. So I'm not really a fan of stay in bed for 40 days advice. But at the same time, I am not about life needs to return to normal and I need to, clean the house top to bottom once a week, starting the week after the baby's born and those kind of things. And what I've really learned, and I've said this a bunch of times recently because it's been so impactful for me, is that we really just have to hold our plans with an open hand when we have a baby and realize that getting it all together perfectly or getting back to the routines we had in place is not something that needs to happen right away. And the second part of that would be if it doesn't happen right away, that doesn't mean you're destined for failure. Okay, it's 6 postpartum and you still don't have a schedule, so therefore you're never going to figure it out. There's plenty of time to figure those things out. I'm talking with my hands and the baby is giggling hysterically. He thinks it's so funny. But anyway, so I think just the lie would be that we have this 1 chance to figure it out and we need to do it perfectly, and there's no room for saying, hey, I'm tired, or I just want to cuddle my baby, or I need some time to adjust to this.
Absolutely. I think that's really great. I know for me, having babies has meant that I have to kind of go into a different mode for a season. And I remember you saying in a blog post, and now I don't know, I lose track of time, but it's probably been years ago, that you shared how it's pretty natural now for you and your husband just to kind of move into survival mode, whereas maybe it used to take, purposefulness, and now it's just a real quick transition. Can you describe for us what changes you make maybe in survival mode, or what does that look like for you?
Sure. So when I was thinking about this earlier, I thought, The biggest cue that we're heading into survival mode for our family is when we purchase paper plates, because that's just not something we do normally, but it's like the easiest win, just to get paper plates and not to worry about those. I don't even know how many it would be, 21 dishes a day that 3 meals for 7 people produce. And so that's the one. My husband will just say, hey, please pick up paper plates or something, and we'll just grab a big pack of paper plates and use them till they run out. And I actually just ran out of we had already been through our kind of postpartum stash and been back to regular plates, but we had some family things that I was doing a lot of traveling. And so we picked up another big pack, and I just ran out of them yesterday and started pulling real plates back off the shelf. I think there's also a lot of, we scale back school to just, the basics, which for us is often just a matter of music lessons and math. And we do an essentials program through Classical Conversations, which is language arts. Okay. And so those 3 things are kind of we're just going to focus on these right now because that's all we have the energy for. We do less activities. We just tend to stay home and bunker down to save that time and energy on getting out of the house. So just looking for the stress points or the pressure points where things feel out of control and simplifying them however we can. And we've just, when you do it through 6 births and, illnesses and traveling and things that pop up in the middle of the last 11 years, we've gotten really good at just saying, hey, this isn't saying we're failing. It's saying this is how we're going to get through the next month or next 6 weeks.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point too for the listener that might be having her first baby and feeling overwhelmed is when you're hearing Mandy talk about these things, these are because she's done it over the years. And we do have that idea in America, and somehow it's especially high pressure with motherhood that the first time out of the gate needs to be in perfect form. And so I just want to encourage the listener who's out there that this is a process, and what Mandy's sharing is something that you can really get better at.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you talked about kind of hitting stress points, and I know stress and being overwhelmed is a big part of the life of a mom, and we all feel overwhelmed sometimes. And yet, from my perspective, I'm looking at you, and I even have more kids than you, but I look at you and I think, wow, she accomplishes so much. She has, the kids, basically the same amount of kids that I do. You have homeschooling, and yet you also seem to keep a much cleaner house than I do, and you do these home businesses. And so how do you prioritize getting things done, accomplishing all the things that you need to get done, while still prioritizing the needs of your soul and the needs of your family?
That is a loaded question. And I think I would start by saying that I think it's natural for us to look at someone else's life and feel like they're doing more than we're doing, but it's probably not true. I mean, I thought I would be the homeschooler that did hands-on projects and field trips and all these cool things, read out loud for hours a day. And sometimes we drop all of those. We really never do hands-on projects unless my older kids want to do them for themselves. But we stay home a lot more than a lot of other families. And we also rely on audiobooks when things are busy and I can't, or I'm sure I could, but you know what I mean? When I feel like that's the thing I need to drop is sitting and reading for long times. And so that's part of it, that I think we all have the same amount of hours and we're probably all getting the same amount of stuff done. We're just choosing different things in different seasons. It's in full disclosure because I don't want anyone to have the wrong picture. My husband is starting a painting business, and so he's gone 2 to 3 days a week, but that means he's here the other days. And so cleaning the house is not something that I'm doing by myself. We've spent a lot of the last year training our girls in a lot of those tasks, but I never, ever sweep, vacuum, or mop. Those are just not my tasks. And so the girls sometimes will sweep or vacuum, and then Sean takes care of the rest of it. And so this idea that I'm really keeping a clean house is not so much me as much as the help of the family I have. Finally, I would just say that I do definitely get overwhelmed. And I think for me, the key is to just pick things that I know are important in whatever season. So I work because it's part of how our family eats. So that is a priority for us. But I don't want to work at the detriment of my family, obviously. That's why I choose to homeschool, because I want to be with my kids and I want to invest in them and that kind of thing. And so it just becomes a matter of, for example, a lot of working moms will say, I have set working hours so that I'm not working when my kids are around or whatever it might be. I actually take the opposite approach, and I have very wobbly working hours so that if I'm in the middle of working and everybody's falling apart, most of the time I can close my computer and focus on those kids. now he's coming himself to sleep.
Perfect timing.
And so I think I feel a little bit like I'm rambling, but I did just want to get that out of the way, because I look at other people and I think the same thing, like they're doing so much, and I never want someone to be discouraged by feeling like I'm accomplishing more somehow, because I'm not. I have a lot of help between the older kids and my husband, and we just stay home a lot, which, frees up a lot of time. That said, caring for my soul and connecting with my kids, one thing I've always been really good about is kind of being selfish in that way. So if I'm tired, it's not hard for me to say to Sean, I really need to go to bed at 7 or 8 while you handle the kids and bedtime and bring me the baby next time he needs to eat. Mm-hmm. And he's great about knowing that if I'm asking for that, it's really because I need it. I'm not like just taking advantage of him. And so I think we've worked out a really good balance that way. I really love my physical Bible, but with Lucas, who is our youngest, being so needy, what I found that it's been hard to have a Bible open in my lap and try to juggle him in a Bible. And so like this time around, I've really learned to rely on just different apps on my phone. So I have my Utmost for its highest app, and I can read that. And I have She Reads Truth, and so I can read a little devotional there, or whatever it might be. So just being flexible in that way and willing to say, okay, I know I need this, and what I'm doing isn't working. How can I kind of fill those things in? And I make time for things like reading or coloring with the girls or whatever it might be, just to make sure that I'm not always checking things off the list and trying to accomplish things, because that gets exhausting really, really fast.
Yeah. I love what you said about spending time kind of unscheduled and just downtime with your girls. Would you tell us more about how you stay connected with your older kids in stressful seasons? Because I think that's something that we can be apt to overlook or just kind of think, they can get through it. How do you stay connected?
So the real answer to this question is, this is an area where I struggle. It's not something that comes naturally to me. I am a baby and toddler and preschool kind of person, so that's easy for me. But I have realized that as my kids get older, I'm almost to the point with my adolescence where I'm concerned about our relationship. I'm not currently concerned, but I'm concerned about the future of those relationships. And so one of my goals for 2016 is really, the way I've worded it, is to win my girls' hearts and to just really invest in those relationships with them. But what that's meant for us is, because we do stay home a lot and because we live in the boonies and there's not a lot around us, there's not a huge opportunity for things like going on one-on-one dates. But as I think back to things like, how did they do this, in olden days and simpler times, what I really realized is a lot of it can happen during the everyday things. So I look for ways to have one of them help me with a chore. And even though chores are not fun, just that chance to be doing something side by side and talking, or I'll take one of them with me to a doctor's appointment for the babies. And so we'll have a chance to talk in the car and as we drive, because I do know that they're individuals, and that when I have 4 girls all together, they don't always get a chance to share their heart. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun together, but really connecting with them on a deeper level is something that can weeks can go by without that happening. And so rather than beating myself up with this, we need some complicated schedule of date nights that we can't really make happen because, it costs a lot to drive to town, and we just don't always have the time to set aside 3 or 4 hours for one-on-one dates. I've just been looking for ways to connect with them in the everyday. And another part of that, especially for my adolescents, is they're to the point where they're starting to be interested in things on their own. So not just like, a certain book series that they love. But my oldest has this idea for creating a YouTube channel, and she's really excited and passionate about it. And so I can hand her the reins to do a lot of the research on that. But that conversation becomes something that is a good way for us to connect and talk through our ideas and that type of thing, which opens up the door then for deeper conversations, just because we're having that extra connection. So it's definitely an ongoing process for me, and not something at all that I feel like I've mastered or figured out. But maybe that's just because that's how parenthood is in general.
Yeah, well, I love what you said, because that's been an area of struggle for us as well. The oft given advice of taking your kids on date nights. And yet I'm looking at all these children and I'm thinking, if I do that, I don't even get to go out with my husband. So right. Going out with each one of them, so I love that, because it is true that making those little moments in our everyday life can be our quality time. That's all the time we have for part 1. Come back for part 2 with Mandi Ehman as we talk about postpartum stress. Thanks for listening to the Mom on Purpose podcast. For more information and all links and show notes, go to momonpurpose.com. You can make a huge difference in how many women find and benefit from this podcast. Please like Mom on Purpose on iTunes and take 2 minutes to leave a review. I'll meet you again next time to equip you to be a mom on purpose.